So anyways, I'm recording now. And that was really too bad because that was 20 minutes of emotional kind of overview story. So off we go again into the beginning. So, oh gosh, so let me try to do a recap here, if I may. I'm sorry that you've been sitting through this, but since you're not chatting and no one else is joining into the open seat, I'm going to go ahead and hit the recap from the top. Great thing about usernames. Hey, this is Chris Hewer, and I am here with Lorianne Silverman and Stephanie Rogers and a couple other people in this Blab chat. And I just realized that I've been talking for 20 minutes and not recording. So I'm going to try to do a quick recap for everyone here and just kind of address what are we going to do with the local organizational structure. The main central premise of what we're trying to do is to get people to think past transformation by opposition. Right now, often the case, we have an issue that we're trying to fight for, and it's typically because somebody out there, whether it's the powers that be, regulation, a culture, a mindset, a different religion or a different culture, whatever it might be, we tend to try to change it through opposition by telling them that they're wrong, by invalidating them. And I think that we're going too damn fast, so fast that we don't take time to find our common ground and connect with one another and find all the places where we actually are human, to find all the places that we can stand beside each other instead of across the ring from one another. And due to that, and because we're going so fast, we jump right into those arguments. And all we see is the negative emotion and the past pains we have as a result of the way things are. And we're not able to get past that. And if we're not able to, as a society, find a better way of getting along and solving our common problems, even when we still disagree on some things, of respecting our common humanity, well, I'm in fear for our society. And I've been in fear for our society for over a decade now. It's why I started Social Media Club originally. 10 years on, the situation's worse. We're more divided than ever here in the US as a country. Obviously, with ISIS and everything happening in the Middle East, it's worse over there. And it's time for more people to find a way to get in dialogue with each other, to find that common ground and find cooperative ways to approach the solution. And it's something that we can do together. So it's my hope that we can advance the seed of this idea, that we can bring together community leaders and civic activists or people in civicists who are engaged in trying to change the world in some way, who may be fighting something today or fighting for something, and find a way to fight with each other. I'm sorry, that's the wrong way, right? See, the language is so darn hard on us sometimes. Find a way to cooperate with one another so that we can actually accomplish more together and start solving some of these problems. You know, this is what Barack Obama tried to do and wanted to do. And for whatever reason, it didn't work. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It didn't work. The world we've got is the one we have. We need to start coming together. So taking the lessons from building Social Media Club into 350 plus cities around the world, I learned what works and what doesn't and how to do the movement. I learned a lot more than that. The first component of it is that we're going to have more structure. And what I'm trying to do is create looser policies that let people contribute in meaningful ways and, you know, expand on it and build on it, but through which we're able to actually have a little more common direction together, to have a little more succession within local communities. If somebody signs up to start hosting, you know, We Are the Solution brain jams in their local communities, to find a way that we can coordinate better together through common platforms and tools, which is why actually if you go to wearethesolution.io, you'll be able to sign up for our newsletter. And from there, within a couple of days, I'll add you into our Slack channel and you can be part of our community and participate as much or as little as you can. And if you have time and you're able to, you know, start taking this on and maybe do something in your local community, that would be great. If all you can do is occasionally retweet and be a Slacktivist, I'm fine with that too, because we need to spread the word. We need to actually get more people thinking this way. And it does require all of us together. Right now where we stand is that it's the seed of an idea. I've just posted on the blog, again, wearethesolution.io, our first event next Friday. And we're going to do that in DC. I'm happy to be out there for an event with IBM. And they are flying me out there, which is how I'm able to do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to fly. And it's why I'm doing it there instead of doing it in my hometown. And also, of course, because there's a lot of other stuff going on around this space there. And we're going to be going to London and Dublin and Bilbao, Spain, also for work and other conferences over the course of the next few weeks. And we'll be coming back here to San Francisco and maybe even in a few other cities, because it's pretty easy what it is that I'm asking people to do. First of all, what I'm going to be doing is explaining this vision to people directly face to face and sharing some stories and asking them to share some stories of experience they've had and to talk about how it makes them feel and to get an understanding of where are we and where we really want to go. But it's really about connecting people, ideas, and resources so that you can better achieve your goals and better live your life on your purpose. And to that extent, to make an impact. And there are ways we can win our argument to create our world through opposition. I just think we can do it with a lot more respect than we've been doing it today. And a lot different type of energy and dialogue. And it starts with us coming together and finding that common ground. So what the Brain Jam is, and the signature event out of the early unconference movement, was really essentially a form of speed dating, where we set up 2 circles of chairs, one facing in and one facing out, where we sit across from one another and for 5 minutes have a conversation about what it is that we're working on, why we're passionate about it, and what it is that you need to be more successful, so that we're able to ask each other for help. And then to connect the people, ideas, and resources that you know that can be helpful for them. It's that simple. And so we do that 10 times, 5 minutes, ring the bell, 5 minutes, ring the bell, and I can give you some more dynamics on it. But in the course of that hour, you'll have met at least 10 people, probably 12 or 14 or more. And you'll also have had a bunch of other people you didn't meet. So solving for that problem is what the Will Someone community tool does. It lets you see what everyone in the community is asking for help with. It's essentially an ask board or an ask list where you can post what it is you need, and other people within the community can see what it is. And when they have time and capacity, they can commit themselves to doing it for you. So when we start looking at the structure as it grows, we're going to be creating a B corporation. For those of you who don't know that, it's a public benefit corporation. And actually, I'm still debating whether or not it should be a full 501c3. We might end up being a 501c3. I still have to talk to some lawyers. It's always been an arduous process, but it might be better if we're going to be able to have access to some foundation money. So anyways, that may change. A lot of it's still in flux, and that's why I wanted to have this call to actually get feedback on what it is we should be doing, could be doing, and everything else. So now that I'm done recording myself again for 6 or so minutes to explain what it is. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi, Chris. Thanks. I'm actually sitting outside, so I have myself on mute there for a minute.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and just hello to everyone else in our chat here. I'm connecting in from Hanalei Bay in Kauai, Hawaii. And I've been in the process of starting my own business as well. And Chris and I go back quite a few years with a lot of joint passion around collaboration and how we can all work smarter together, how we can bring people together for conversation and mutual benefit for all of us. And Chris, I wondered if it would be okay to talk a little bit about the message I wrote in Slack about Live Your Legend. You know,
Please.
That was writing yesterday. Yeah. So another revolution or group, another community that I'm a part of is a community called Live Your Legend. And it was originally founded by a guy named Scott Dinsmore, who sadly just passed away a few weeks ago at age 33 in a tragic accident. He was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with his wife, and they were on a worldwide tour visiting. So much like what Chris was describing with the social media club and having that in so many cities, Scott had envisioned having Live Your Legend local communities all around the world, you know, so all around the US and all different countries. And I was the original host for the Atlanta Live Your Legend local meeting. And but Scott and his wife Chelsea were traveling all around the world visiting the different Live Your Legend groups and stuff. Anyway, so I mentioned that about him passing away because what that actually did was it reignited this spark, you know, of people saying we never know what our next day is going to hold and how important it is for us to live our legend every day, even if it's just baby steps, you know, one step, that common goal. And so, Chris, just now when you were talking about connecting with other organizations locally, that was something that just came to me is as we're doing brain jams in different cities, that the Live Your Legend people, a lot of the people that are already in that community, which is over 100,000 people, I think would share a lot of the same common values. And many people are already working on similar projects and are looking for people to collaborate with. So, kind of as we identify where we're going to be doing things, that we can bring together those local groups that we discover as well.
Yeah, and in fact, going back to the very beginning, part of my inspiration was a conversation at a conference stage in New York where it was an artist and a scientist. And again, crossing that divide with that interdisciplinary sort of work. So as we started looking at brain jams originally, one of the key tenets was, can we bring together, this community group and that community group? And what could they learn from intermingling with one another? And to that extent, one of the early visions for doing brain jams was, well, there's no reason why there couldn't be one every night. Like if there was like a community space, why not, bring in the SPCA and, the SFAMA, the marketing association people, right? And have them mix it up so they can learn from each other and connect. Or, two different nonprofits, as it were. So definitely something I would love to see more of and plan for in terms of the structure and part of how we invite them. Cool. That's very cool. So talk more about what Live Your Legend means, though, because you shared the kind of construct, but the purpose is really important because, it's kind of inherent in the name, but please elicit or elaborate a little more, please.
Sure. Yeah, happily. So Live Your Legend is all about the idea that within each one of us, we have something that we're passionate about. It might be very deep and needs some eliciting or, needs some help getting out on the surface. But the idea is that when we discover what it is that we're passionate about or where our strengths, a big part of it is finding out our strengths, So I, for one, I'm very passionate about StrengthsFinder, which is an assessment tool, and it's really just a tool to help you get to that piece of information. So anyway, the idea with Live Your Legend is that through the community, there's a lot of free tools that people can use, again, to help with the process. But then the vision is that when each one of us is doing something that we're passionate about, then we're bringing our gifts to the planet, to the world, to our global community. And that as we are all doing that we can light ourselves up and light each other up across this global platform, and that we'll all be happier and more joyful doing work we're passionate about, things that we're good at. And by just the nature of that will make, help more people become happy. And my contention is that will then reduce conflict. If more of us are happy or doing things we're passionate about, it might be hard work, but it's something that wakes us up every morning and something that we're excited to go and put our talents to good use in the world, then that can help create more peace. So I see it as a big part of the global justice movement.
I love that. And it very much in the same spirit. And again, it's, as we find out, it's seldom an original idea that we come up with, but it's often a zeitgeist moment. Because it's very much, another way of representing an idea that I had around the noble pursuit that I wrote and shared with you as well. This idea that we all have some higher calling in our lives that we want to go after, and why don't more people do that? And I think that the Live Your Legend is like a great calling to action, whereas now I'm getting into titling and branding and naming and mantra, but it's important to understand how that impacts people, because most people do digest things as a blink, right? So Live Your Legend is an active sort of call to action. The noble pursuit is a thing. And so I could see where that really takes hold. And that's also why I'm actually even saying, okay, how might we rebrand this instead of We Are the Solution? What might be actually a better call to action, like a living legend active language, as opposed to We Are the Solution, which is a statement that we're also the problem. So,
right.
So these are the things, completely open. What I really want to do, as I found again and again, that innovation and progress really comes from constant iteration and experimentation. And what can we do to continue to iterate until we get to a point that we find the success that we need? So it's not holding on to, it doesn't have to be We Are the Solution. It doesn't have to be a brain jam. It can be called anything else beyond that. And to that extent, it might even be that, we need to join up with somebody else who's already doing something else bigger and try to direct it. And again, the question is it something that we share so much common ground on that we can stand on that together? Or is it something where we have, a special interest group underneath it or what have you? So I'm open to all of that stuff. But right now, I haven't seen enough of this out in the world. So, it's starting. And,
Yeah.
start.
Oh, Chris, I wonder if there's anybody else who's, online with us right now that might want to grab that open seat and share some feedback based on what the two of us have said so far. Any volunteers out there? Seeing a few more comments coming over in the comment section.
Yeah, I just retweeted again so you can see that. So, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw it come through.
Hey. So great when people join and you're not alone. The first 2 minutes when I'm alone, I'm always like, okay, what am I doing here? Hi. No one's in the room except for the bots that Blab sends. Blab does send bots at the beginning, by the way. I'm pretty confident of that. So, because I'm always like, wait a second, I just started, and who are those people? I've never seen them before. I mean, maybe they're real. I don't know. But.
Right. Well, I think one thing is, kind of bringing people together with resources.
Yes.
So Chris, like you were saying, people. What was it? I always get the third one lost. People.
Ideas and resources.
Ideas and resources. Right. So, because I think it's that a lot of people can talk about ideas, but then it's that practical application piece where they're not sure what to do. So, when we think about the community organizing, and what I'm kind of thinking about is picking a few concrete projects, for us as a new organization to focus on. So like the brain jams, but then saying, well, what's the outcome of the brain jam even, or having just a few projects to start with so that people can kind of get their arms around the idea and the power of what we're talking about, like a practical application of it. And then that will build momentum.
Yes.
So for example, with Live Your Legend, what Scott did is, that was his business, now it's a community of people, but he created some courses, there's a lot of free material, but then there were some courses and things. But what I'm envisioning is just this bringing, picking. I think the thing is some people get overwhelmed easily, and thinking, okay, there's ISIS, I get overwhelmed. If I think of all the problems in the world, I get overwhelmed and I just want to go lay on the beach and forget about it, the whole thing. But I really am an activist at heart. And I know that together we can make change. We can create change. So to me, it's kind of like taking bites of the elephant, like breaking it down into a few concrete things that we can work on and see some kind of progress so people don't feel burned out or, oh, why should I spend my time on this when it's just a dead end that's not going to go anywhere?
Yeah. And that's actually the realization that I had around it. Why don't people start? It's not only the overwhelmed, it's first of all, I don't think it'll ever change. So the first project really following on that logic is to actually capture stories of when it did and to actually make the first project around the gathering and capturing and telling and sharing of stories around people who have come together where they were previously in opposition to cooperate with one another instead of continuing to fight. And so I think that probably would make sense as a real early project to show proof that these people have done it. This isn't just a wild fantasy that we have because we're idealists living in a utopia that doesn't really exist in the real world, right?
Right.
So does that make sense possibly? And also it's something that we can all do remotely as well. So, anyone can do that in any time that they have.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. So for the rest of you guys that are online here too, even if you want to just share in the chat section, if you don't want to come into that open seat, just let us know if what Chris has just said there resonates with you or not, to kind of help us further our thinking about where to go from here. And I think a question that I have, Chris, is, I think what we've started to do as We Are the Solution community so far is we've started using that hashtag, when we identify stories, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or, using social media channels. And I would love to know, what's your vision of how we can aggregate that stuff? Like, would you envision a place on the We Are the Solution website where we would aggregate the stories? And I know you talked a little bit to me about like a blog where different ones of us could guest post into the blog. So maybe share a little bit of thoughts there.
Yeah, very much so. So, the technology exists to aggregate this stuff. There's a couple of different vendors out there who have solutions that we could end up deploying. Unfortunately, most of those solutions cost real money, so we've got to either negotiate a community nonprofit agreement or whatever. But ultimately, to actually have that all live on the website and have it so that from within the community itself, it becomes shareable. So really, we can start doing this in an ad hoc manner. And as you suggested, we can have people guest posting on the blog, and we can actually just continue to pay attention to it ourselves. And that's going to require really a community manager to look after We Are the Solution account and to start sharing this stuff broadly. And then for each of us to actually pay attention to it and track it. So we're moving towards that. But what I did find from last time is that you really need to be able to pay people. And having an all-volunteer nonprofit doesn't necessarily, it doesn't sustain itself and it doesn't work. So I'm also looking at how do we get some grants, possibly from there's some stuff from the Knight Foundation, from Kauffman, and a few other places where we might be able to get some grants to cover a couple of employees who can actually be the curators to start holding the community together and start, doing more amplification and curation from the center to the entire network, who is working with all the different people around the world and around the U.S. in particular. The one thing I am doing differently, it just so happens I'm heading over to Europe, so we're going to do them because I'm there and I have people there who I know and I'm friends with. But I really am focused right now on the U.S. more than the rest of the world, but realizing that we're a global society and that those divides are equally important to get across. So what people can do now, as you suggested, is use the hashtag. We can pay attention to that. And then we will, continue to evolve that as we go, which is one of the other things that's been really hard for me because, I really do just want to see it move really fast. But now that I've been doing startups for 25 years, I am okay with it going a little bit slower. Actually, I'm not okay with it. I accept that it could.
Right.
That's a better way to say it, right? So it'll go slower, but we'll do it. And so that's why we just keep, chipping away every day, trying to do a little more and hosting a chat like this. I think, doing one of these every week will be helpful and to continue to bring people in different voices. And then ultimately, even through this, it's finding somebody who lived through the transformation from an oppositional state with an opposing viewpoint or political view or religious or other view or geographical battle or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I just had an idea, Chris, there.
Please.
It prompted me, right, when you said that about finding these people that have the stories. So maybe if we start out just with at least once a week blab like this, and if the person is willing or vulnerable enough, if we identify these people, ask them to come to the blab and just talk to us as a core group first and share their story. And that can help all of us make our vision more concrete about what we're doing. So kind of just a thought as we identify those people. And again, that's something where I'd say as we identify those stories, because I know you have several stories just from work and opportunities where you've connected with people, you've shared some of those stories with me verbally. But I'm thinking, again, of just the knowledge manager in me, aggregating that stuff on our website. So, we have a repository of stories. So what comes to me is NPR StoryCorps, how they record the stories of these different people, that we could have a StoryCorps version of stories of conversations where people have come together to resolve a conflict, instead of working in opposition.
And I haven't been able to share it publicly yet, but in the project we're working on getting funded for LA, that's a practical reality where we might have a number of people on the ground who could be able to go out and capture some of the stories and the human side of that all.
Yeah.
So that's a really exciting bit. Unfortunately, I have to go in 2 minutes because I have to get ready for something at 2. So I'm going to need to wrap up, but I want to go ahead and wrap this on that point because I think that is a really great kind of next step for us. Is to, basically start asking for who here has I don't know how to phrase the question, so we've got to figure out how to phrase the question better. But, who has overcome a conflict that was at one point oppositional and challenging and argumentative and emotionally difficult to then move to a place of cooperation to find the breakthrough. We need to find a better way to write that. So perhaps if somebody in the chat can figure out a better way to write that or share that with me, I'd really love to know, so that we can find a better way to do it. And then for the next week, we'll continue to share it out, and maybe even actually, Stephanie, if you could write up a quick blog post on it and not even worry about the specific phrasing, but just write it as a blog post and whatever length is possible, and then we can start promoting it so people can add it on in the comments, and we can actually start collecting it there on the site and start using it there. Just a couple hundred words to kind of express the idea. That would be fantastic.
Sure, about collecting the stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and about saying who out there has been through it. If you know of somebody, share their story with us. Give us a link, or tell us who they are and make an introduction. And that would be interested in interviewing them here on our weekly Blab show.
Okay. All right. Yes, I can commit to doing that.
Thank you. Now we got something going.
All right.
Now we're more than just a website with some blog posts and a crazy guy who shouldn't be doing this thing because he believes we have to.
But if you weren't doing it, then nobody would. So we're glad that you are.
Oh,
I can at least speak for myself.
Well, and I'm glad that you're here, Stephanie. I've always had such great respect for you, as you know, and I'm so glad we're still connected. I'm so glad you're living your legend and getting a chance to do that in your world. And I do plan to get over to Kauai as soon as possible to see you. 'Cause for those who don't know, Stephanie lives on one of the best places on earth on Kauai, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful island.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I have great respect for you, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know the rest of the people that are here in our chat today as well. So I think the weekly chat idea is a great idea to help keep the momentum going.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll let you go for your next meeting. Thanks to everyone else who joined us today as well.
Yes, thank you very much, and we'll see you again here soon. And again, please go to wearethesolution.io, subscribe to the newsletter. We'll add you to the Slack community, add you to our Will Someone group, and please get involved any way you can. And as we were just discussing, if you know of somebody who was once in conflict trying to create change and switch their position to be more cooperative and working together with those who they once opposed, essentially like the minor league Nelson Mandelas of the world, if you will. No minor league. I don't mean that. Anyways, people who aren't as well known. The off-Broadway version. There we go. That's a better way of saying it. The off-Broadway versions of our Nelson Mandelas. We need more role models. We need more examples. We need more proof to show people that this can be done.
Absolutely.
And so please let us know and join us here next week.